We're going out on video chat now. TSN's NHL insider Darren Dreger joins us from Toronto. And Dregs, if you don't mind, can we start there? That Astros thing, they cheated, they got caught, but they won. Do you think they regret it or feel bad about it?
No, not even a little bit. I don't think they do, and I'm not condoning cheating by any stretch of the imagination. But Rod, I heard your conversation and the segment, and I tend to agree with you. And not that my world is completely immersed in hockey. I guess professionally it is. But, how are we going to dissect what cheating is or isn't, right? And what's the magnitude of cheating? If you dive and you draw a penalty in the National Hockey League, or how many times historically have we seen that phantom high stick? Not as much of late, but where Buddy snaps his head back and he hasn't been touched at all, yet he draws a 2-minute penalty. I mean, there are varying types of cheating, and every sport, every team cheats to some degree. This is just the extreme because now it's become an international story and there's admittance to all of it. But I wouldn't say every athlete, but every team cheats in some way, shape, or form. Yeah,
there's a lot of guys that have never won championships probably sitting back going, wish I'd thought of that. So Dregs, to hockey and the Kassian 2-game suspension, there's all the analysis and everything of what the hits were. What do you think about this how it's played out?
Yeah, you know what, Rod? I wasn't at all surprised. And, I'm sure that there's a large number of Edmonton Oilers fans who are throwing their hands in the air going, come on, take a stand here. Well, as an insider, that's not my position. I go based on precedent. And as soon as it happened, the entire incident, but, let's go to the end and then we can work our way back. When you saw Zach Kassian go snap show, I don't think that there'd be too many of us who didn't understand and appreciate why he did it and what he was doing, because he had reached the end of his rope. And again, we can understand that based on how clearly Matthew Tkachuk was targeting Zach Kassian in that game. So now I start putting my feelers out. From a hockey perspective, from a fan standpoint, I can understand the frustration over the 2-game suspension, but I also know how the Department of Player Safety works. I know how they look at precedent and other incidents. And there are a couple that come to mind automatically, including one involving the Oilers in 2016 when Darnell Nurse, went after Roman Polak, then of the San Jose Sharks. So the supplemental discipline side of this, I get, whether or not Oilers fans can appreciate it. Where I struggled was in the fact, and this is follow-up now, this isn't in the moment. In the moment, I thought that there were at least 2 penalties that should have been called against Matthew Tkachuk. 2 of the 3 hits. One for sure was charging in my mind, but that's not the way it was read on the ice. And after the fact, in dealing with officiating sources with the National Hockey League, that's not how they felt after the fact, after looking at those plays a number of different times. So, look, I know nobody's happy about it. Flames fans probably thought that Kassian should have got a 5-minute major. They could have scored a couple of more on the power play, but they're probably more likely happy with the outcome, the fact that they did score on the power play and they won that game. But I could also appreciate the Oilers' perspective on that, how there wasn't penalties called against Matthew Tkachuk, and in the end, it's Zach Kassian who ultimately pays the price.
Darren, I agree with you that nobody's happy about the outcome, but in an odd sort of way, I think in its own sort of side respect, everybody's happy about it because isn't it fun for everybody? Like if you're a player, you probably got more juice going now than you've had in a long, long time. You can't tell me that the organizations aren't loving it. They're going to sell everything from beer to merch to tickets to whatever. I just think the NHL kind of, even though they probably won't admit it, this is good for everybody. This is good for the game, isn't it?
Well, and then the 2-game suspension ends with Zach Kassian returning to the Oilers lineup to play, of course, Matthew Tkachuk and the Calgary Flames. I don't disagree with that. We have spent so much time in the media and as a National Hockey League and from a fan perspective, like just going cross-eyed over watching the minute offside challenges, right? I am so sick of that because I don't expect that the NHL and the caretakers of the league, the general managers, are going to change it because they've talked about it at meetings countless times now. So this is refreshing that we're actually talking about the emotion, the rivalry that should exist. in a real battle of Alberta. So, look, it's going to be must-see TV when these teams play again. And look, it's legit. It's real. These players are feeling it. I mean, you guys saw the soundbite from Leon Draisaitl when he was asked, well, what happens if you're on the ice with Matthew Tkachuk at the All-Star? And he says, I'd probably get off. I mean, he's pissed off. He's not faking it. There was no tongue-in-cheek. There was no smirk when he said it. They legitimately hate Matthew Tkachuk. And I think we can all understand why to a degree. So for me, it is 100. I'll talk about this all day long. It's refreshing because we haven't seen this type of rivalry in a long, long time.
Yeah, it's from Torts, right? We need more hate in the game. It's good. I was reading these guys, the George Larocque tweet, when he says he blew up Bob Stauffer in a charity skate for all the things he said about him on the air. Real yard sale, but even he got up and sticked him to fight. So he honored the code. Have you ever had a player come after you? Have you ever had a player say anything to you, or have you ever taken a shot in one of those charity games?
No, but I almost got fired back in the day. I was at GX94 in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, in the infancy of my broadcast career. We were playing in Swan River against the Firefighters, and it was a charity game. And I'll never forget this. Dave Harrison was my boss. He was like the celebrity referee. I get slew-footed by a fireman in the corner, and I'm a young guy at this point. I'm around 20. I got up, and this is where the old throat punch comes from in the Ray and Driggs hockey podcast. I throat punched this guy in a charity game. What? And now I probably would have got my arse kicked because people jumped in, and there was a meeting. This was like on a Friday. They had a meeting on Monday at GX94 to decide whether or not they should fire me. Now, the good thing is nobody was videotaping this thing. I mean, if we had cell phones, they were the flip type cell phones, so there were no cameras rolling back then. But no, I mean, physically, that's as close as it got. I had Bobby Lowe's one time challenge me to a fight in the parking lot at the Keystone Center in Brandon. I can't remember. I think it was because I was defending Darren Millard, who now works with the Vegas Golden Knights, and so does Bobby Lowe's. But beyond that, I mean, yeah, I've had some Twitter battles with.
I'd have put my money on you
and whatnot, but
I'd have put my money on you against Bobby. I would.
Bobby wouldn't have quit though.
No, he wouldn't.
That's
have
the
quit.
problem with Bobby.
I'll put my money on Darren.
He wouldn't have gone down.
Hey.
Well, he might have gone down, but he'd have got back up.
One of the best nicknames of all time. All right,
Buffa?
Bobby Lowe's nickname, Slobber.
That too. But here's the thing. You're in an argument with a guy that's the coach of your own team. If that doesn't say a ton about Bobby Lowe's, that's all you need to know. It's not the other team's coach. It's your own team. Lastly, Dregs, before I let you go, what do you think about the Churchbridge Arena being named after Kevin Killer Kaminski? I think he tears up every time he thinks about it, and it's been a couple months.
Yeah, it's near and dear to my heart, Rod. No question about that. In fact, I was in Saskatchewan in October. I went to visit my stepfather, who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So I can't remember who told me. I was in Langenburg, which is just down the highway from Churchbridge, that this was happening. You know who it was? It was Jess Moskaluk, the country singer's grandfather, who I was chatting with in the care facility that my stepdad is in. This is a small town at its best. And he said, hey, do you know that they just named the Churchbridge Arena after Kevin Kaminski? And I was so impressed by that on my way driving back to Regina, because I had to catch a flight, I stopped at the Churchbridge Arena. The doors were locked, so I couldn't go in, but they didn't have the signage up out front yet. So I was going to take pictures and tweet it, but I didn't get a chance. So I'm looking forward to seeing it firsthand.
Yep, it's up now, and it's awesome. Dregs, you're a busy guy. Thanks for the time this morning, as always. Appreciate you joining us for coffee, and we'll be watching, as always.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
TSN NHL insider Darren Dreger, former voice of the Brandon Wheat Kings. That's where we met, and the guy's never forgot where he's from.
Good man.
And he is a great man. He's emceed every one of Peter Labardius' weddings. Got a note from Dreger, by the way. He says, Rempel looks better today. He could pass for 70 instead of 75.
I've had that coming for years.
We'll be back. It's the Rod Pedersen Show on Facebook Live and listen live at rodpedersen.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.